Hello, today is the 16th of March 2023. I have been listening and noticing a trend that has been going on for some time now. I want to say years, several years at least, 3 to 4 years, with the solar industry moving into the home or rooftop residential installation pretty aggressively. And unfortunately, it has taken the shape of having people get into debt, get into loans. There's a lot of companies out there, a lot of contractors, a lot of finance companies that have teamed up to install solar panels on residential roofs. They have been taking advantage of the media attention on the solar energy industry. They have been taking advantage of the desperation of many people, many Americans that have dwindling paychecks and surging and skyrocketing prices, not only in energy but in just about everything. Gas for your vehicle, fuel prices are through the roof, food prices are through the roof, rent prices are through the roof. If you are familiar with what's going on, you know that there is a deep recession that has been happening for at least a year now. And even before that, prices have been creeping up quite dramatically. And this has been happening for at least 2 years. More noticeably, about a year ago, prices began to increase very dramatically. But throughout the pandemic, the prices have been creeping up because of the many supposed transportation and supply chain disruptions, etc. But people are feeling the heat. People have been feeling the heat for a very long time. People have been attempting to survive and make ends meet any way they can. People have been attempting to save money and make a little more money. And a way to do that is sometimes to invest in technologies and things that allow you to make money and to leave a little more money in the bank. Solar is seen as one of these technologies, emerging technologies, that can potentially save you money, that can potentially eliminate, or at the very least severely reduce a large bill, which is your power bill. Your power bill, as I have mentioned many times before, is among the largest payments you make, apart from your rent, apart from your home mortgage, apart perhaps from any big loan that you may have, such as a car loan, vehicle loan, car payment, car note, as they call it. And I believe your power bill is probably about the third highest bill that most people have. I have done the math, done some calculations on this before, and I have found out that you can commonly or possibly pay about 6 to 10% of your income in electrical power bills. These bills are quite permanent. Most people, if not everyone, has a power bill that has, of course, a home place that they live, pay rent, pay mortgage, or even pay boarding if you happen to rent a room, most likely than not, you are chipping in, at the very least, if not outright paying for your entire power consumption. And it is not cheap. It has been on the rise since it started. It has been on the steady rise. I have never seen power rates backtrack. They have always gone just one way, which is up. And taking in consideration, of course, your seasonal changes on your power use or power rates, of course, power rates have been on the steady climb. Yes, you do use less power, and the power company has different rates throughout the year, throughout the day. So those are the only fluctuations that you may see. However, the per kilowatt hour rates have nothing but climbed, and especially so in the last year, when energy prices shot through the roof because of the, in part, at the very least, because of the war raging right now, unfortunately and sadly and disturbingly. Yes, we are at war, unfortunately, as a world community, even though it is only, there are only two nations mainly involved, directly involved. We as a nation, we as a world are allowing this, are fine with this situation because it brings wealth and well-being to some individuals, specifically individuals that profit from such happenings, from such hideous occurrences such as war. Sadly, that's the world we live in, and solar energy companies, to get back on track, have found a way to take advantage, to capitalize on this situation where high energy costs and very expensive everything, rent, food, mortgage, loans, everything is through the roof expensive. So people are beginning to think outside of the box. I've seen this before. I've seen this happen in 2004 and 2005 with the energy crises of especially of 2005. There was a similar energy crisis after the economic recession of 2007, 2008. And now we have an energy crisis very similar to those. And gas prices have been up in the $4 mark, between the $3 and the $4 mark, pretty steadily in the last year. So that has been forcing people to think outside of the box, to think for creatively, for ways to save money, to do something different, to set themselves up for something better, for something that will allow them to have an edge over other people, over the economy, the way the economy is heading. They want to place themselves in an advantageous position. This is natural. Most people look for ways to have a little edge, have a little advantage over others, over their peers. That is a lot of what the economy is all about. And these solar companies have been quick, have been quite aggressive in capitalizing on this. And a lot of people are signing very dubious, very disadvantageous contracts, lease contracts, loans that are quite large. Yes, solar energy is still expensive. Still, the equipment for it is very much experimental. There are many recently formed companies. There are many industries that are less than 10 years old that are building solar equipment, selling solar equipment, installing solar equipment. Companies the world over are flooding into the market, and it is a regulation bonanza where the industry is got very gray and fuzzy regulation as of right now. Yes, there are some limitations that have carried over from the electrical industry, the electrical field, that have somewhat taken the place or have somewhat extended into solar, since solar does fall into the electrical equipment field, industry, etc. A lot of the existing electrical codes, electrical requirements, electrical legislation have taken hold, covered some of the requirements, some of the limitations of the solar industry. However, it is very much a gray zone, a fuzzy area in many cases, where people just don't know what to do. People just don't know how to approach things. Companies really have no regulation, no guidance in many areas of the solar industry. So they are able to get creative. They are able to bend the rules a little bit, and this has caused a lot of confusion. This has caused a lot of situations where people are getting a bunch of equipment installed, and permits are not being pulled. Companies are filing for permits and then installing the equipment ahead of time and then connecting it after the permits have been issued. But this is in theory. In reality, a lot of this stuff happens without permits being even issued. And but the main thing is with the financial situation, the regulation with solar. It's very young, very new as far as the financial side of it goes, and a lot of people are getting caught up in the very old, very profitable, and the very harmful for consumers. It's profitable for the companies involved, but it's very harmful and unprofitable for the consumer. And a lot of people are getting caught in these loans and these scams and these situations, financial situations, where they are stuck. They end up signing for contracts where they can end up stuck paying for a high term or a high payment for many years. We're talking decades. So the trend with solar has unfortunately taken a turn for the worse, for to the detriment of many people, especially middle class, working class, or even working poor that are desperate to switch their energy source, that are desperate to save a little money, that are desperate to look for different ways of dealing with this ever changing and ever increasing economy. And also the solar industry has catered to the rich. Companies like Tesla pitch and cater to the rich, to the powerful, to the very wealthy with their very expensive services, their very expensive equipment, their very expensive products. Their installations are astronomical. The prices that they charge per watt are among the highest in the industry. They seem to, again, just target the very rich and powerful, and leaving out most of the country, most of the economy, most of the working people, leaving them outside of their targeted audience, their targeted consumers. And solar energy is already expensive. The equipment for it, again, as I mentioned before, is expensive to buy, expensive to invest in. The initial cost is quite high. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. Most likely than not, a solar energy system for a home is, the equipment alone is in the vicinity of about $20,000. The equipment alone. This includes solar panels and the other equipment needed, the inverters, chargers, the controllers, the switching, the wiring, and the batteries needed are going to cost you at least $20,000. This is for a smaller system that's not going to cover your whole home or 100% of the usage of your home. If we're talking to cover the average American home's energy usage by 100%, we're talking with storage, that means with batteries, we're talking $50,000 or better or more. Batteries alone, the battery bank needed for a average American home has to be very large, has to be in the 10,000 watt range, 10,000 watt hour range to cover a significant amount of that home. To cover 100%, maybe up to 20,000 watt hours. So it is quite large. The battery system needed is likely to be lithium-ion. Lithium-ion batteries are very expensive. We're talking ranging from 300 on the bottom end per battery, all the way up to 2,500 per battery, depending on the size. There are a few factors there that affect the size, mainly the voltage and the watt hours available in the battery. Of course, the higher the price of the battery, the quality also comes into play, brand, etc. So solar energy is expensive, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be excruciatingly or extremely expensive. Solar energy could be affordable for working people, especially middle class working people. It could even be affordable for the working poor if done with a company that is that's got the customer's interest in mind, not necessarily only profits. Like many of these solar companies, they primarily focus in the profits that they will be making, often employing very dubious selling tactics, very dubious contracts and misleading contracts, and very contracts full of technical and legal jargon that many customers are not familiar with. The contracts are often not read, not understood fully, and when explained, they're simplified to the point where everything, a lot of it is omitted. A lot of it is just not explained by the salesperson or by the contractor, and the customer is left often depending or trusting the word of the explainer, the salesperson or the contractor that's presenting this contract is usually basically the last word before signing, before agreeing to the contract. And again, often these contracts are to the detriment to the financial and fiscal detriment of the buyer, of the person signing the contract, and to the benefit of the company or the companies involved, which could be over 3 companies. It could be the sales company, it could be the contractor, and perhaps the supplier. And who knows, there may be other companies involved other than that. So, to go back to the point that solar does not have to be expensive or extremely expensive. It will be expensive, but it doesn't have to be excruciatingly so. For example, right now as I speak, the cost per watt of solar panels alone is in the vicinity of about 70 cents, perhaps a little less, perhaps 65. So it's from about, depending where you get it from, how much, it could range between 50 cents and about 70 cents right now as I speak. And of course, this is mainly if you buy in bulk, if you buy more than perhaps 10 or 20 solar panels at a time, which the customer or the person interested in putting solar could definitely do. You can definitely find a supplier that will sell you 10 panels, at least 10. Of course, they rather sell you more, but you can very easily, per my experience, buy a pallet of 10 panels that are perhaps 300 watts per panel. That is 300 watts per panel times 10. That is 3,000 watts worth of panels. So 3,000 watts worth of panel, if you were to purchase it at, let's say, 60 cents, that would give me $1,800. So 60 cents per watt, and you buy 3,000 watts. That is $1,800. Of course, that's not where it stops. The charges do go on. You have to pay taxes, of course, here in America and the U.S. So if you pay, let's say, about 20% taxes with city, state, or the county, That'll be an additional $300. So that brings the figure up to $2,160. The shipping for a pallet of panels about that size is going to run you between $300 and $500. So let's say you pay $400 for shipping, which is about half in between $300 and $500. That takes it to about $2,560. If you were to pay for an inverter, a very good quality inverter for that 3,000 watt system, you will probably spend about $3,000 on a very good quality inverter that is going to last you a very long time with a very good warranty and very little maintenance, if any. So let's say you spend $3,000 on a very, very good inverter charger, both charger and inverter. We're talking, it's going to bump it up to about $5,560. $5,560. So throw an estimate of about another $1,500 in other miscellaneous equipment, such as wiring, such as switches, such as disconnects, such as maybe some electrical panel or more than one electrical panels, and let's say that all that stuff costs you another $1,200, which I'm being quite conservative here. Actually, quite generous. Not conservative, but generous with the amount of money that stuff could cost. You can get that stuff for a little less. But let's say it's another $1,200 in those items that you would need for the installation. And another those right there with the $1,200 bumps it up to about $6,760. Let's say you pay a contractor. Now let's throw batteries in there, since we're going to talk about a off-grid system, not being tied into the grid. So you're going to use solar energy alone by itself without using your grid. So let's throw in there another $3,000 in batteries. Batteries are costly. Quality batteries are costly. So let's throw $3,000 worth of batteries. That takes the system to $9,760. Let's say you're not technical, you're not electrically inclined, you're not an electrician, you don't want to deal with electricity or running cables, running wires, putting in the system. You're not mechanically inclined as well. So you want to leave all the work, both mechanical work and electrical work, to a contractor or more than one contractor. So you want to leave the work to someone else. You can definitely do that. And let's throw another another $2,000 to the calculation. So let's say we were at 9,500. Throw $2,000 for installing the system, and we are at a mere 11,500. And this is a far cry from what companies are charging. A very far cry. We're talking about 30, 40, 50, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 easy. Yes, they would put in a larger system. You really don't need much of a larger system if you make concessions on your usage. If you make changes on your usage, and I've gone through these changes, through these things in depth, and I won't mention everything here, but just as a reminder, if you switch out your air conditioner from being a Hulk, mega sized and very energy consuming air conditioning, and you downsize to a very efficient air conditioning unit that is very, very efficient and small, you don't need to cool off the entire home at any one moment. You just need to cool off, if you need to cool off at all, you just need to cool off one room at a time, the room that people are inhabiting in a home. The average amount of rooms inhabited in a home at any one time is from probably 1 to 2 rooms, no more. Yes, there will be times that there are many rooms, perhaps 2 to 3 rooms or 4 rooms inhabited, but this is that is not a justification to have an air conditioner that could cool off the whole house and have the whole house cooled off all the time during the hotter weather, hotter months. To me, that is just a waste of energy, waste of time, waste of resources, waste of just about everything, waste of energy, primarily. So if you want to downsize, first downsize your place of living. You don't have to have that huge home unless you need it. In which case, if you need a huge home and you have that amount of people living in it, then you most likely, if everything has gone well with your life, you most likely could afford a much bigger system, solar energy system. But we're speaking about a small family, perhaps a single family with perhaps 1 or 2 children that has not made or does not make a lot of money. They really don't need a lot of space. So keeping the size of your home small will definitely decrease the amount of energy that you feel you need to consume to keep that home cool or to keep that home warm. If you live in an area of the US that doesn't require constant air conditioning, like most areas here in America, does not require, I say again, does not require constant air conditioning being on. So during the okay times of the day, you can shut that system down, the air conditioner. During the hotter part of the day, you can probably turn it on if you wish. There are other alternatives to air conditioner, which I've gone into depth as well, such as ventilation fans, natural ventilation, natural air flow going through the home, cooling rooms. You can make use of shading to cool off areas. You can make use of the sunlight when available, to warm up areas without using air conditioning. You can use insulation to keep areas warm during the cooler months, cooler weather. You can use convection and body heat convection to keep areas warm during cooler weather. So there are many alternatives to air conditioning and air heating that would take that load or much of the load off of any potential solar energy system. Same thing could be done with your cooking. Those devices, those appliances could be very well made, or could be very well efficient. They could be very efficient. They could be efficient to the point that a solar energy system could cover it, could cover its demand, its electrical demand. And you can also take them off of the solar system altogether, have them run with other fuels such as natural gas or propane. If you want to control more of your usage, you can switch it to propane, which is a lot more of a controllable fuel. You can store it. You can use fuel tanks, propane tanks right there at your home locally and control its use very much without having a bill. You can use, of course, LED lights. You can use smaller appliances, smaller TVs, smaller, more efficient computers. In reality, believe it or not, electrical use is on the decline because of the efficiency of the appliances and the efficiency of the devices that we use on an everyday basis. Computers are less power consuming. Most people don't need the powerful, gaming computers that demand a lot of electricity. Most people could do away with using a tablet or their phone as a computer. You can print readily now from a tablet or a phone right into a printer. You can just look at everything that you need to and do just about everything you need to, including looking at email, checking your bank account, sending messages right on your phone or a tablet. You don't really need a PC now to do those things, which is 90% of what people used to use PCs for. Now they can do it on the phone. You very rarely have to print. The average person very rarely has to print anything. If you happen not to want to print it from your phone, or you're unable, or you can't set the printer up to do that, then you can use your PC for the very limited amount of time that you need to. The 50 to 100 watts needed would be no problem to cover with batteries and a solar energy system. So your system really doesn't need to be as big as people think that it has to be. You just have to make concessions. A 3,000 watt system is very adequate for the average person. A 3,000 watt hour, a 3 to 400 watt hour battery, perhaps 500 to 600. Let's say you need a 600 watt hour battery. That's more than adequate for the average user, especially if we're talking about the newest types, the lithium phosphorus batteries, or lithium phosphate iron batteries, which are very durable, which are very versatile, and very hardy. They can take a lot of beating, a lot of abuse, and they spring back up. These batteries need very little, if any, maintenance once connected correctly to the system, and they last a very long time. Although they are quite expensive, they are very worth its price right now. And $3,000 worth of batteries, I believe, will get you those batteries no problem. and perhaps will get you about 300 watt hours, which is again more than adequate for the average user. So a solar energy system shouldn't cost you more than $15,000, I would say, if you want to go a little higher with the amount of panels, amount of batteries to cover for those days that you need extra coverage, extra juice, extra energy. But in reality, the 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 and more $1,000 that these people are charging is just outrageous. Even with paying very handsomely paying and generously paying a contractor or two contractors, both mechanical and electrical, it's just ludicrous paying these people $20,000 to put a system about the size that I'm describing. Even if they put a system double that, let's say it's a 6,000 watt system, or 6,000 watts worth of panels, and the system with including storage or batteries, they have no justification to charge you $40,000 or more. A system like that, again, shouldn't cost more than maybe $30,000. Again, if you were to double the system size, and if you were to double the cost of everything, including the installation, which is hardly the case. When you double the wattage, you don't necessarily double the price. You can actually get more wattage for a good price, good cost, without having to double the price if you double the wattage, because you usually get better deals if you buy more panels. You usually get a better deal if you install on installation. If you install a system even that large, even larger, double the size, you usually get a better deal on the other equipment if you double the size. It's not the wattage. It's not exponential, or it doesn't double up in cost as it doubles up in size. That's just not the case. They may want to make it the case, the people installing the system, the people selling you the system, but in truth it is not. If you want to go, let's say from a pallet of 10 panels to a pallet of 20, it's not going to cost you twice as much for the most part. It may cost you about maybe 50% more than what it would cost you to go with 3,000 or 10 panels. It would cost you at the worst 75% more. That is the worst case scenario. But it would not cost you, it should not cost you 100% more, double the price. It should not in any way, shape, or form. Same thing applies to all the other parts, including the installation. For example, if you want to get a 6,000 watt inverter instead of a 3,000 watt inverter, it should not cost you twice as much. That's just not how things are set up. That's just not how things work for the most part. So watch yourself. A lot of times it's very difficult, sometimes seems impossible that you can find an installer, a person, a sales person or company that will look out for your interest, but they are out there. Most definitely they are. There are people that are of good intent, good faith, good practices. They don't get involved in deceiving practices There are honest people out there that will try to save you and truly save you money. And if they are telling you that they are the only ones that can save you money and that they are the only ones that should do the installation, then that's already a red flag, because they don't know. In honesty, they just don't know everything. They just don't know who's out there that could perhaps do a better job or do the same job for less. They don't know who's out there that could offer the same product or similar product, equivalent product for less. So you have to know how to deal with these people, these solar salespeople, these solar contractors, and do the reading, do the math, do your calculations. Don't get cornered into making a decision or signing anything without you reading, without you thinking about it, without you looking at the numbers, running the numbers on your end, meaning that you have to do your budget and see if you can actually afford the payments and the system that they're going to put in, that they're offering you. And once you do all that, do the math, do your budget, read the contract line by line, and make sure you understand every sentence and every word in the contract. And if you don't, ask the questions and clarification. And after you do all that, then you can have the salesperson put everything that they offered you in writing. That is, in addition to whatever contract, generic default contract that they have. If they made any claims and made any offers, and the sale is based on those claims and offers, of course, because you are accepting what the person is telling you, then have them put it on paper and put it as an addendum or as an addition to the contract, signed by them, by the companies, not necessarily the salesperson, but the company itself. The company management needs to be aware of this, and they need to sign off on the claims and offers that their salesperson is making, because the salesperson may or may not be authorized to make changes to the contract or to make additions to the contract. So you have to have someone that can make additions to the contract. This may be very difficult to do. They may have to be legally, they may have to involve their legal team, and they have to involve their finance team or their, their higher ups, including probably the owner. So this may be a difficult thing. If you're not happy with everything in the original contract, it may be very, very difficult to add or change or amend or make any addendums to that contract. So make sure you are extremely and very happy with the contract that you are signing, because anything and everything that is not on that contract, it is not to be delivered, most likely than not. You cannot demand or expect anything outside of the contract to be delivered. So if it is not there, and your decision is based on something that is not there, then do not make the decision. Do not sign. It is just that simple. If it is not in the contract and your decision depends on whether that it is part of the contract, then do not sign the contract until that very reason, that very thing that you want is in the contract. It is just that simple. A lot of people don't get this simple requirement, this simple fact. because many times they are unwittingly or not, unknowingly or not, they are under peer pressure by a salesperson that may be very, very clever, that may be very, very seasoned when it comes to applying that peer pressure and that human psychology. And you may or may not be a person that is very keen on these things, very wary, very aware of that pressure, that very subtle pressure that is applied by salespeople all the time. Salespeople, if they are very good salespeople, they, knowingly or not, do apply a very subtle and consistent peer pressure for you to make a decision and make a decision as fast as possible, because they are on company pay. They are expected to deliver sales. So of course they will try to pressure you into signing and finishing or closing that sale. That is how they get paid. They are put in that predicament, which is not your fault. They're put in that predicament, and the economy puts them on that predicament. And of course, they will many times try everything they can to close the sale again. So think about all this. Thank you very much, and hope that you make the right decision with solar energy. It is very worth it. I support it. I am involved in it, and I do recommend it to anyone because of the very many reasons and advantages that it has, which I won't go into it now, maybe in another video, but I have covered even those very reasons in the past. Thank you very much.